So, I want you to just picture this for a second. Imagine you're standing in a really crowded subway car.
Oh yeah, the absolute worst.
Right. It's rush hour, and you are just gripping that overhead handrail. Your shoulders are like hitched up somewhere around your ears. Your jaw is locked tight.
And you're probably barely breathing, right?
Exactly. Your breathing is so shallow, you are barely taking in any air at all. But the crazy thing is you don't even notice it.
No, of course not. You're completely checked out.
Yeah, to you, your body has just become this background hum. It's completely drowned out by your mind's endless chatter about your commute or your inbox, deadlines, whatever.
We really do tend to operate on this assumption that our bodies are essentially just vehicles. Like they're just carrying our brains from meeting to meeting.
But that's exactly what we're challenging today. What if your body isn't just carrying you? What if it's actually actively recording you? Welcome to the deep dive.
I am really excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
We are looking at a fascinating stack of psychological research today. It's focused on Gestalt theory and the physical body, and it really forces us to radically rethink what physical tension actually is.
It totally does. The core premise here is that our bodies hold on to stress, not as mechanical damage that just needs to be fixed, but as unfinished psychological business.
Which is a huge paradigm shift.
It's a profound shift in how we perceive ourselves, honestly. I mean, we are so conditioned to treat the human body like a machine, like a car that needs its alignment checked when the steering starts pulling to the left.
Right, like just take it to the shop, crack the back, and you're good.
Exactly. But from a Gestalt perspective, the body functions much more like a ledger. It's constantly keeping track. It tracks every unspoken word, every suppressed emotion.
Wow.
Yeah, every single moment you turned away from your own needs just to, keep the peace in a room.
So the research talks about the body as this active field of, and this sounds incredibly academic, but incomplete gestalts.
It does sound a bit dense, yeah.
So what does an incomplete gestalt actually look like in a normal person's day-to-day life? Because I need a grounded example here.
Fair enough. Well, to understand an incomplete Gestalt, you kind of have to look at how we process experience in general. In Gestalt psychology, an experience has a natural arc.
Okay, like a beginning, middle, and end.
Basically, yeah. A need or an impulse arises. We call it the figure emerging from the background. You take action to meet that need, the experience completes, and then that figure fades away so you can move on to the next thing.
That makes sense. You get thirsty, you drink water, you stop being thirsty.
Right. But when that arc is interrupted, the Gestalt remains incomplete. And the research gives a really clear, if somewhat heartbreaking example of this.
Oh.
Yeah, imagine a child who learns early on that expressing anger is dangerous.
Like because they get yelled at.
Well, not necessarily even because they're actively punished. Sometimes it's just because the adults around them simply withdraw their affection.
Oh, man. Or the parent just gets cold and quiet, which to a kid is basically a survival threat.
Exactly. It's terrifying.
Right.
So the child's nervous system detects that threat. The impulse to express, the anger is still there. I mean, the heart rate spikes, the little fists clench up.
The lungs fill with air to yell.
Yes, but then the child realizes the environment just cannot tolerate this. So they swallow the fire.
We just shut it down.
They do. The outward expression stops, the fists unclench, the environment stabilizes, but, and this is the crucial part, the physical energy of that anger doesn't just vanish.
Because it's biological. It's real energy.
Exactly. That biological mobilization has to go somewhere, so it coils inward. The child literally uses their own musculature to choke off their own impulse.
Oh, wow.
And over time, that coiled, suppressive energy becomes structural. It turns into a rigidly tight diaphragm, or a stomach that just knots up the absolute slightest hint of conflict.
Because the body didn't forget the anger.
No, it embodies the suppression of it.
You know, it reminds me of having dozens of background apps open on your smartphone.
Oh, I like that.
Right, like you look at the screen and everything seems quiet, you're just staring at the home page. But those hidden apps are constantly refreshing, they're draining the battery and just eating up all your processing power.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Your body is practically overheating because the software never actually closed the loops.
But, okay, let's unpack this. If it's just a matter of tight muscles, why doesn't regular stretching solve the problem? Or like going in for a really deep tissue massage?
Right, because you'd think it would.
Yeah. I mean, I know people who get massaged every week. They walk out feeling like a literal puddle of water, and then 3 days later, their back is a concrete block again.
Well, it's because stretching and massage only treat the hardware. They treat the tension as if it were a purely mechanical flaw, like a tight guitar string or something.
But it's not.
No. The tension is actually a perceptual arrest. The human mind and body operate on this thing called the law of closure.
Law of closure. Okay, what is that?
So if you look at a drawing of a circle that is only, say, half finished, your mind automatically fills in the rest of the curve. Your brain absolutely abhors fragmentation.
Right, it desperately wants the whole picture.
Exactly. So when a biological impulse arises but is prevented from completing its arc, it gets stuck in your perceptual field. The tension isn't a tight muscle, it's the physical act of holding back.
Wow. The physical act of holding back. The research actually illustrates this so vividly with the concept of a stifled no.
Yes, that's a great example.
Like, say you are in a situation where someone crosses a line. You need to set a boundary. Instantly, your body mobilizes to do it. Your spine straightens up. You take a deep breath into your belly.
The vocal cords actually prime themselves to speak.
But then the fear of rejection kicks in. Or just the fear of causing a scene.
Which happens to all of us.
Totally. So you swallow the word. That specific, targeted energy that mobilized for expression is now just frozen.
Yeah, it gets trapped in the jaw that clamped shut to stop the words, or the chest that seized up to stop the breath. The research actually refers to this held tension as a phantom limb of the psyche.
A phantom limb of the psyche. That is such a haunting phrase.
It really is. It's the physical shape of a boundary that was never allowed to exist.
Okay, I get the logic, I really do. But I have to push back a little here for the sake of our listeners.
Go for it.
I wonder if this is making us out to be, well, overly fragile? Are we really just walking museums of every fear we've ever had?
That's a fair question.
Right. Because if every swallowed emotion stays physically trapped in the body forever, that sounds exhausting. It feels a bit like that agonizing sensation when you are right on the verge of a massive sneeze.
Oh, I hate that.
You take the breath in, your eyes water, you lean back, and then nothing. The sneeze just dies. And you are left with this hollow, frustrating pressure in your face.
The sneeze analogy is actually really close.
Yeah.
But we need to push it a bit further to really get what Gestalt theory is saying here.
Okay, push it further how?
Well, a sneeze is a purely physiological reflex, right? If you lose a sneeze, you just feel temporary physical discomfort. But what we are talking about with an incomplete Gestalt is a perceptual freeze.
So it's deeper than a reflex.
Much deeper. It's not just a reflex that got interrupted. It's the brain literally freezing the frame of an emotional reality. And this brings us to a foundational concept in the research called isomorphism.
Right, isomorphism. I saw that word a lot. Is that basically just a fancy academic term for muscle memory? Like how my hands just remember how to ride a bike?
Not quite. I mean, muscle memory implies something you learned in the past that you can recall now. Isomorphism is different. It means the structural correspondence between the mind and the body.
Which means what, practically?
It means the physical state is the psychological state in the present moment.
Wait, they are the same thing?
Yes. The body doesn't just react to an emotion after the fact, it enacts it. When you feel deep shame, for instance, your posture doesn't just happen to collapse inward as some sort of side effect.
It collapses the shame.
That physical collapse is the shame.
So the posture and the emotion are the exact same thing, just viewed from different angles.
Precisely. So when an emotional impulse is chronically interrupted, the physical configuration never resets to neutral.
Oh, I see.
Like if you habitually take very shallow breaths, it might not mean you have poor lung capacity. It could actually mean your diaphragm is actively maintaining the physical structure of that stifled no.
And it just stays like that.
Yeah, and over time, to conserve energy, your entire organism simply starts avoiding any authentic contact that might trigger that unresolved feeling.
We just build armor.
Exactly. The musculature becomes rigid armor. We numb out. We dissociate. We literally stop feeling the tension because feeling it would mean feeling the original fear that caused it in the first place.
Man, that casts a really strange light on our modern optimization culture.
Oh, totally. How so?
Well, I mean, we spend billions of dollars on foam rollers, wearable tech, and these specialized breathing apps trying to force our bodies to relax.
Yes, we treat ourselves like broken machines.
Right, like we just need the right torque applied to the right bolt. But if my body is holding a tight pattern because it deeply truly believes that pattern kept me safe from an emotional threat, attacking it with a foam roller seems completely counterproductive.
It is entirely counterproductive. The body operates on integrity and survival, not, corporate efficiency.
It doesn't care about my productivity hacks.
Exactly. If you try to hack your way out of tension by just forcing a muscle to relax, you are essentially telling your nervous system that its primary survival mechanism is a nuisance.
And the body's not going to like that.
No, it will just resist more fiercely. because it thinks you are tearing down its main defense. You cannot dissolve a psychological figure by ignoring its content and just pummeling the muscle. You have to meet it.
Okay, then how do we actually fix it? Because if physical force doesn't work, and ignoring it clearly doesn't work, how do we close the loop? How do we sneeze the stuck sneeze?
So, the Gestalt approach focuses on this practice called here and now awareness. Healing isn't about scrubbing the tension away. It's about restoring the flow of perception.
Okay.
There's this beautiful analogy in the research. Think of a river blocked by a massive concrete dam.
All right.
You can massage the banks of the river, you can cool the surface of the water, but until you open the dam, the entire ecosystem remains under unbearable pressure.
Right. The water has to go somewhere.
And you don't open a dam by forcing the water over it.
Hmm.
You open the gates and allow the original impulse to flow again.
But practically speaking, how does that actually work? Because the research suggests doing things like placing a hand on the ache like a tight jaw or a knotted shoulder and asking it a question.
Yeah, like, what story lives here?
Right, or what were you trying to do for me? And I have to admit, that sounds a little woo-woo to me.
I get that. It does sound mystic.
Like mechanically, how does touching my own neck and asking it a question do anything to resolve a 20-year-old trauma?
It sounds totally woo-woo.
Mhm.
But the mechanism is profoundly neurological. When a trauma or a suppressed impulse happens, the amygdala, which is the brain's threat center, essentially locks time.
It freezes.
Right. It doesn't know the threat is over. It only knows the physical bracing is still happening.
Oh, wow.
So when you bring your conscious attention to that tension and you physically touch it, you are providing novel sensory input to the nervous system.
Yeah.
You are grounding the sensation in the present moment.
Because you're proving that you're here now.
Exactly. And by asking the question with curiosity rather than judgment, you signal safety to the brain. You are telling the nervous system, hey, I see the defense you put up, and we are safe enough now to put it down.
So I don't need to write like a 10-page essay analyzing why my neck hurts. I don't need to logically deduce that my boss's passive-aggressive email triggered a childhood memory.
No, not at all. Because true insight in this framework isn't cognitive. The realization isn't an intellectual puzzle you solve.
What is it then?
Insight is a somatic reorganization. The body speaks in sensation, not in English sentences.
That is so freeing to hear.
Right. It communicates fear with a flutter in the chest. It communicates grief with a leaden heaviness in the limbs. When you place your hand there and simply offer it attention, the Gestalt completes through physical feeling.
And then what happens?
The muscle softens because the frozen emotional figure finally gets to express itself. Often it just comes out as a deep, spontaneous sigh. It's a literal resetting of the parasympathetic nervous system.
You're shifting the entire relationship. You just stop treating your body like a malfunctioning appliance and start treating it like a witness.
Beautifully said.
But, okay, thinking about this logically. If I do this work, if I manage to clear my own incomplete gestalts, and then I walk right back into a toxic workplace or a dysfunctional family dynamic that demands I suppress my anger all over again.
Yeah.
Aren't I just bailing water out of a sinking boat?
That is a very real concern.
Like, is this actually just an individual problem, or are we fighting a losing battle?
That is the exact edge where the research pushes perception to its absolute limit. Because the field we exist in is never purely individual. We are constantly interwoven with the social, cultural, and historical ground we walk on.
The context matters.
Always. The body breathes the air of inherited expectations. When that child we talked about earlier suppresses their anger, they aren't just adapting to the quirks of their immediate parents.
No.
No, they're often echoing a much older collective contract, a generational rule that says, do not take up space. Your comfort is less important than our cohesion.
Wow. That makes so much sense when you look at the massive waves of burnout people are experiencing today.
Yes, burnout is a perfect example.
We usually frame burnout as just a time management issue. Like, we think we just worked too many hours or didn't sleep enough. But through this lens, burnout is the somatic residue of an entire culture.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It is the physical consequence of a society that demands endless exertion with absolutely zero closure.
Zero closure.
Think about it. We live in an environment absolutely saturated with open loops, unanswered emails, projects that bleed endlessly into the next quarter, global crises we scroll through on our phones but can literally do nothing about.
Industrial time completely dominates biological time. Our bodies evolved for, like, agricultural seasons. intense exertion during the harvest, followed by deep restorative rest in the winter.
Right, a natural rhythm.
Now it's just the relentless, unbroken pace of the fiscal year.
And the organism, which is fundamentally faithful to wholeness, tries to hold all of those open loops. It tries to brace against all of them at once.
That's exhausting just to think about.
The research actually cites Nietzsche here, which feels incredibly relevant. He wrote, "Beware that your longing for peace does not become a flight from battle."
Oh, I like that.
If we view tension purely as an individual failing, we miss the point. Healing isn't just private self-care. True healing is intercorporeal.
Meaning between bodies.
Yes, it happens between bodies, in the field of our relationships and our society.
So when you realize your tension is tied to these massive systemic pressures, choosing to release it and actually set a boundary isn't just some, wellness trend.
Not at all.
It is a genuine act of rebellion. Allowing your spine to straighten and taking up space is defying a lineage and a workplace culture that taught you making yourself small was the only way to survive.
It is a profound reclamation of agency. When you finally speak a truth you have swallowed for years, and you are met with genuine listening from another person, the figure completes. Not just within your own nervous system, but in the field between you. You actually contribute to the restructuring of the collective ground.
That is incredibly empowering. And there's always a but with me if we follow this logic all the way down. If we are carrying this immense personal, generational, and cultural weight, it seems like the ultimate goal of all this work is to become completely tension-free.
Just be relaxed all the time.
Yeah, to release every single knot and become perfectly relaxed, like a noodle.
That is the assumption most people make, definitely. But it misses a beautiful final paradox in this philosophy.
Okay, what's the paradox?
Not all tension is meant to dissolve.
Wait, really?
Really? Because some tension is actually the physical shape of devotion.
Devotion?
Think of the mother who has a chronic ache in her shoulders from years of hunching over to rock her child to sleep.
Oh, wow.
Or the artist who has a stiff neck from gazing intensely at a canvas, just completely lost in the flow of creation. Or the activist whose jaw is perpetually clenched because they spend their entire life speaking difficult truths into hostile, unyielding rooms.
Those aren't incomplete gestalts.
No, these holding patterns aren't pathologies. They aren't failures to optimize the nervous system. They are signatures of care. They are love and commitment, made entirely visible in muscle tissue.
It changes everything about how we view our own discomfort.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, because freedom isn't the total absence of tension. Freedom is simply the presence of choice.
Exactly. Choice.
It is having the somatic flexibility to tense up fiercely when it's required, like when we are protecting something or someone we deeply love, and the ability to soften completely when we are finally safe. The tension itself isn't a flaw, it's a compass.
It is a compass that never lies.
It points directly to what we care about.
We have moved through such a complex landscape today. We started with the assumption that tension is just a mechanical malfunction. Then we moved into understanding it as an incomplete perceptual loop.
Right.
We expanded that to see the weight of our shared cultural burdens. And finally, we arrived at this place where we can honor our tension as a profound signature of devotion. The deepest wisdom of the human body might just be its stubborn refusal to forget. It holds on because it knows some things matter too much to let go of before they are truly resolved.
It is a completely different way to inhabit your own skin. But as we wrap up, there is one final implication of this research that we haven't touched on, and it is something you can observe in yourself literally today.
What's that?
Well, if our biology inherently requires physical expression to complete these emotional loops, like if we need to physically enact our boundaries or our grief to signal safety to the brain, what is happening to us in a world that is increasingly entirely digital?
Oh, that is a massive evolutionary mismatch.
Right. Imagine you experience a sharp, emotionally charged conflict over a text message.
The worst.
Or you have to suppress intense frustration while sitting perfectly, statically still on a video call, just so you maintain a professional posture on camera.
Your body is literally dumping adrenaline in those moments. It is mobilizing for action. It is preparing the muscular structure of a fight or a boundary.
Right.
But you are forced to remain completely physically frozen, staring at a piece of glass.
The adrenaline has nowhere to go. There is no physical reality to the interaction at all.
Precisely. Are we actively creating a modern epidemic of digital tension? And if the body requires physical release to close a loop, how are we going to invent new physical rituals to process conflicts that exist only in the cloud?
That is something to seriously consider the next time you find yourself gripping your mouse with white knuckles, or holding your breath while reading an email. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. For now, we encourage you to just sit back, be present with whatever you are feeling in your own musculature, and let your own field form. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.